This suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador. He brutally attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother during a home invasion in March of 2023 in Los Angeles. We are 1,800 miles away here in Harford County. We are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies.
This weekend, we were reminded again the deadly consequences of Joe Biden's horrific border policies. This time, it was the rape and murder of a woman in Maryland. The sheriff of the county in which this crime took place held a press conference laying out exactly what happened.
Rachel was not his first victim. And it's my understanding that this suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador a month early in January of 2023. Once in our country and likely emboldened by his anonymity, he brutally attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother during a home invasion in March of 2023 in Los Angeles. And as everyone I believe is aware, that was our first DNA match linking Rachel's case to the Los Angeles case. It has been a fear of mine that once we identified this suspect, the result would be exactly this. And I want to now direct these comments to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and to every member in both chambers of Congress. We are 1,800 miles away here in Harford County. We are 1,800 miles away from the southern border, and the American citizens are not safe because of failed immigration policies. This is the second time in just 2 years that an innocent Harford County woman has lost her life to a criminal in our country illegally. Let me repeat that. 1,800 miles from the southern border, and this is the second woman in our county to be killed by an illegal alien. Suspects, in both cases, they are suspects from El Salvador with ties to criminal gangs. Should not be happening. Victor Hernandez did not come here to make a better life for himself or for his family. He came here to escape the crime he committed in El Salvador. He came here and murdered Rachel, and God willing, no one else. But that should have never been allowed to happen.
That's Sheriff Jeff Gahler. He is the sheriff of Harford County in Maryland. It looks like it's another Lake and Riley situation. A Salvadoran in the country illegally. And by the way, he first tried to cross the border. He was caught miraculously back in 2023. He was turned away, but then he walked through a porous part of the border and was able to stay here, committed crimes, got away, and now, thankfully, thanks to the cooperation of many law enforcement agencies, including the FBI, who were tough on sometimes, but were really tough on the political FBI in Washington, D.C. But the actual field agents in Tulsa, Oklahoma, ended up being the ones who could connect the dots, find this guy through DNA cross tests, and now he's in custody and will face justice for his crimes. But the bottom line is, like Lake and Riley in Georgia, this woman in Maryland shouldn't be dead today. She should be alive. She should be with her husband and 5 children. She's dead because a criminal was allowed into this country, a criminal who should have never been here. These are the direct results of the lack of security on our border, the lack of a wall, the lack of protection. And we've got over 10 million who have crossed into this country and allowed to stay. And it's about to get a lot worse. How can it get worse? Well, CBS News is now reporting something that many conservative lawmakers on Capitol Hill and other commentators have been reporting on for months now. The Biden administration is making plans to announce one of the largest immigration relief programs in recent history. Hold on there. Let's pause for a second. What does that mean? An immigration relief program? What have you ever heard that term before? I love it when they make up new words in the English language or combinations of words. Immigration relief program. So we need a program to relieve people of immigration, provide them immigration relief. Is immigration a burden in some way that requires relief on an individual? It makes no sense. But of course, if you're in the mainstream American corporate-owned media, your job is to not make sense and put words together that make things sound really wonderful when in fact it's a bowl full of poop. When you click on the link, you find out exactly what they mean by immigration relief. It's amnesty. Amnesty for people in this country illegally. Amnesty for people who have come into this country and as their first gesture as a brand new resident, they broke our laws and continue to break our laws. Now, if Joe Biden and his administration proposed an amnesty program, he would lose probably 49 out of 50 states. California, you can never count on them. But of course, they can't risk losing votes by saying that they're going to have an amnesty program. So it's not amnesty anymore, guys. It's, how'd CBS put it? Immigration relief. Well, I feel better about that. It's about time immigrants had some relief. One of the largest immigration relief programs in recent history, developing a policy that would offer legal status to hundreds of thousands of immigrants living in the country without proper documents. Oh, they're just not proper documents. That's all. This is according to 4 people familiar with the plans talking to CBS News. So this guy who raped and murdered this woman in Maryland and has been living in the country, breaking the law for the last year without being apprehended, theoretically, this guy could get some immigration relief from Joe Biden. Over at NBC News, they delivered the news slightly differently.
And new this morning, multiple sources familiar with the White House's plans tell NBC News that President Biden is set to take executive action as early as Tuesday to protect hundreds of thousands of undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens from deportation.
Oh, it's just spouses, guys. Well, that's totally different. But is it? Again, they're trying to spin this, and I'll use the phrase again, polish the turd, so that somehow you'll be able to choke it down and enjoy it and ask for seconds. The Biden administration wants to give amnesty. Now, why? Why now? Well, there could be 2 reasons. The first is this is one step closer to being able to vote. And I have no doubt that there are people in this country illegally who, if they're given amnesty by the Biden administration, they'll be given some card of some sort that will make them think, oh, I guess this means I can vote now because I'm not here illegally. And I know it's a conspiracy theory that people vote illegally in this country. But if that happened, this would be a really great opportunity for hundreds of thousands of them to get the vote. Now, I'd love to let you know what leadership in the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives thinks about this, but they don't like talking about it right now. But we do have Nancy Pelosi on the record just 20 years ago about this very issue, when there was a Republican president named George Bush. Here's Nancy Pelosi, almost 20 years ago, talking about border security and illegal immigration.
Broken borders. That's an oxymoron, something we can't tolerate. Borders, of their nature, our definition as a nation and our protection as a country. Broken borders, they don't exist. We can't tolerate them. So let's say from the start that we all in this body, and I know I can speak very firmly for the Democrats, support strong border control.
All right. Well, we're going to let Nancy Pelosi from 19 years ago finish this statement, but you just heard what she said. She can speak for all the Democrats. She literally can. She, at the time, was the majority leader. She was about to be speaker. Another year later, she would be speaker. She was minority leader at this time. She just said that everybody in that chamber supports strong border security. Do you think Nancy Pelosi could deliver these words today, speaking on behalf of every Democrat in that chamber? Do you think she could say it speaking for every Democrat in charge of the White House? Do you think she could say this speaking on her own behalf? My, how things have changed. Listen to the rest of this speech that she gave. There's another minute and a half. And ask yourself that question. Could she or any other Democrat in any other leadership position in Washington, D.C., or anywhere around the country say exactly what she's saying right here?
And it must be part, and the first part, of any comprehensive immigration reform. It is our obligation as elected officials to keep the American people safe, and our borders are our first line of defense, one of our early lines of defense to do that. Democrats support also enforcing laws, current laws, against those who came here illegally and those who hire illegal immigrants. Yet the Bush administration has refused to do just this. Imagine that for all of this talk about illegal immigration to the United States and going after those workers who are working here illegally, and we should, but we also must have employer sanctions. Where are these people working? Why are we not enforcing the law against employers who...
By the way, I want to jump in here real fast. She's 100% right about that too. And this is where the Republicans in the House have gone astray. They should be championing sanctions against employers who are exploiting cheap labor, who's here illegally in this country. It undermines our economy and it undermines American workers. And Republicans, last time this was up for a vote, they actually stood in the way of E-Verify. So an employer could actually go to a database and check to see if a person's documents were valid and the person was in the country legally. States allow you to do it right now on a state-by-state basis, but not federally. This is a Republican problem too. But we'll go back to Nancy 20 years ago and a few procedures ago as well.
Who hire illegal, undocumented people here. The Bush administration has prosecuted only 3 employer-sanctioned cases in the last fiscal year. Only 3 cases. When are we going to take this issue seriously? Mr. Speaker, we all know what we must do. Democrats have long called for strong border security, effective law enforcement, and for comprehensive immigration reform. In all that we must do as elected officials, we have the responsibility to make the American people safer and to make America stronger. We can make America stronger not only at our borders, but in upholding our values and our principles.
You can not only make America stronger by doing that, but you can also make America great again, Nancy. Our thanks to Maze on the X social media platform who found that video. Maze finds incredible videos in the archive there and put together that montage. I can only imagine that in 2005, a Democrat sitting in his high-rise high above Central Park West in Trump Tower, named Donald Trump, was watching the Speaker of the House and saying, "You betcha, Nancy, I'm on board with that. We should secure the border. Someday I'm going to be in a place to be able to do that." It was only 11 years later, actually. But by that time, Nancy Pelosi, because Donald Trump wanted a secure border, had to be against it. That was a time when Democrats claimed that they wanted border security. They were also pushing for amnesty, which, of course, now Biden is going to push through via executive order. It won't be able to go through. It'll be blocked. It'll go to the courts. Eventually, the courts will show that Biden couldn't do that unilaterally. And, of course, Democrats will use it as some sort of weapon to say that you conservatives, you Republicans, and the Supreme Court is full of a bunch of xenophobic racists. And in the meantime, they will continue to try to push their plan to keep the border completely open so that another rapist murderer from El Salvador or any other country on the planet can illegally enter this country and rape and murder your mother or your wife or your daughter or your neighbor or, well, who cares? That's just a statistic after all. We have a country to ruin.